Welcome back to Desktop Bodybuilding and another episode of the Weekly Bodybuilding Breakdown with myself and Michael Galley. Now, we've got several topics to talk about today, including the closure of 33 Gold's gyms in the US. Also, who is the greatest uncrowned Mr Olympia of the 90s? Also, Lee Priest versus Generation Iron. That debate heats up as well between them. And also, if you guys like this content, please give this video a thumbs up and smash the like button. Also, subscribe, hit the notification bell button. That way, you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding. Anyway, guys, on with the video. Welcome back to Desktop Bodybuilding. I'm here with Michael Galley for the Weekly Bodybuilding Breakdown. Mate, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I'm enjoying my lockdown or self-isolation as best as possible.
How's the band treating you?
Yeah, if I don't see another band when this lockdown's over, I'll be a happy man. I will never use a band in any of my sessions at all, ever.
Nah.
Yeah. What about you? You've got a little bit of a setup.
Yeah, my setup's nice, man. Like, honestly, I can do everything. Like, it doesn't. I feel bad saying it because I know a lot of people are pretty stuck with what they've got, but it sort of forced me to do some exercises that sometimes you'd be lazy to do, like too lazy to do. So you more of a free weights and stuff like that rather than just going straight to a machine or something. So it's been good, man. Like, honestly, I've enjoyed it. Like, I've enjoyed training in my backyard, putting my music on and all that sort of stuff. I mean, sometimes with a family, it gets a bit crazy in terms of like, you know, like you hear the baby crying and you feel guilty being out there training, but you're like, oh, do I go in and help or do I wreck my workout doing that? But no, overall, man, I've actually sort of enjoyed it for a bit of a change, to be honest. So, I feel sort of bad saying that because a lot of people are in a much worse situation.
I don't feel that good hearing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sorry, man.
All counting on is the rebound is going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. I've cut my calories down a fair bit to what I normally do. So once I get back into the gym, I can ramp that up again and hopefully, even at my old age, get some more growth happening. Yeah,
for sure, man. You're pretty much like the fountain of youth over there, so whatever you're doing is the right thing. So.
And it's getting nice and warm too. We'll be coming into the hotter days. We are in the hot days now, but should be heating up very soon, very nicely.
Yeah, nice. Well, we've got plenty of topics to discuss, as I mentioned at the start of the video as well. So let's get straight into it, man. And Lee Priest versus Generation Iron. Now, this has sort of just blown up over the last few days, and we know that Lee wasn't happy with the way that his documentary was shot. I can't even remember what it's called now. But he wasn't happy. He said there's a lot of people interviewed that weren't actually on there that had more positive things to say about him rather than more, I suppose, the negative way that the documentary was shot, I guess. I haven't even seen it, but that's what it sounds like. And Generation Iron basically put up a video on their YouTube channel basically almost implying that Lee Priest, it was an interview with Lee Priest's mum, obviously from when they shot the documentary, and basically they made it seem like Lee Priest's mum came out and said that Lee Priest is a bully. That's how it came across as, and she didn't. She didn't in the video, so it was obviously like a very clickbaity sort of title. And I mean, I've been accused of clickbait sort of stuff before as well, and I'm like, no, it still is what the video is about. You know what I mean? It's still, you know, I might put a question mark on the end of something, and it, you know, might be true, might not be, or whatever. There might be something around that topic, but this is just straight up clickbait. And Lee Priest pretty much fired back, as he does. There's a thing that went up, and he basically sort of explained that, you know. It was almost like the video that went up on RX Muscle was a video explaining how he's a good guy and he's not a bully. Pretty much. And he did say some things which I disagree with. But what do you think about the whole, I suppose, controversy and what Generation Iron did and all that?
Another big blow up. But I think Generation, they went too far again. You can see there's a little bit of sourness there from that crew, and I don't think they should have used it in that way at all. They're obviously clearly trying to get some more views or some more controversy. I guess if I was Lee, I probably would have been a little bit pissed off about it as well. Hard to say.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been happy if I was Lee. If that came up and it was my mum, like I feel like I would crack it as well. So I do understand it from that point of view. Some of the stuff that Lee has said and some of the stuff that I've actually seen Lee say online as well. He does say obviously it's him going on RX. It's more of a persona and more of an act or whatever. I can't remember the exact words he actually used. But I have seen him say some pretty awful things on an Instagram live. I saw him say something very insulting, but I'd say disabled people, and I've got a disabled brother, so that hit a nerve with me. And personally, for me, that really turned me off him big time. So, and that's just me. That's my decision or whatever. So I'm not. Yeah, I'm never letting that actually impact the way I report things. So if some bodybuilder says something about me, I'm not going to then be like, oh, negative on that bodybuilder. I'm going to stay just totally, not transparent. I'm trying to think of the word. Impartial. I'm trying to stay impartial as possible. So I don't get influenced by what someone's saying to me, or if I really like someone. I mean, it's hard when you really like someone. Like I interviewed Luke Sando recently. I interviewed a bunch of guys that I really get on well with, and it's hard not to be like, look at this guy's pictures and want to pump them up because they're a nice dude. You know what I mean? So it's just it's a tough one, but yeah, I think I'm just going to let that play out and not get too deep into that one.
Yeah, we'll let that go. But yeah, no, I agree. There's probably a few things that are said that shouldn't be, and have been on Instagram and stuff like that. But it is what it is, I guess. Yeah,
and it's going to be nice, man. I'm going to kick back and just not get involved in this one.
No, just let this one fly, because I've got a feeling it's gonna keep going for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you've told me that 33 Gold's gyms in the US have closed down, and you think about the US and you think 33 is not that many, but the Gold's gyms typically that I've seen in America are typically huge. So it's not just a small little local gym that's tiny. It's generally a lot of the Gold's gyms in America are huge, and if you've obviously got a bigger Gold's gym, then it's probably going to be a bigger financial stress in terms of paying rent and all that sort of stuff. So they're probably more of the ones that are closing down. Fortunately, Gold's Gym in Venice is still safe as far as I know for now. But this is serious, and the way it looks in America with this whole virus compared to Australia, and Australia is still sort of on lockdown, and we're looking at opening things up. But in my state, in South Australia, there's been no cases for the past, I think, day or two. So there's been no new cases, which is incredible, and I'm extremely happy about that. But there's still talk of gyms over here being closed until the end of winter, and that's basically the end of summer for you guys, which is a long way away considering that's about 4.5 months, which is just crazy for me. But tell us what you know about the Gold's Gym closures.
Well, mate, actually, funny enough, the first thing I saw was Generation Iron put up a page about the gyms being closed. So I thought, I probably won't believe this. And then shortly after, Gold's Gym actually brought out the statement that 33 were closing down, and it looks to be all their corporate gyms. I live in Dallas at the moment, and 3 of the gyms here are definitely closing down, which is a shame, because I did have a passport membership, so I did train at all those 3, but also all the other Golds around the country when I travelled. So yeah, it's sad. I knew a lot of the PTs there, a lot of the staff that were in there. So yeah, it's a big shock. I think there still would have easily up to maybe close to 600 gyms that'll be functioning, but not good news for the ones closing. No.
Yeah, it's terrible. And off the back of the news here in Australia, some of these gyms that are like, hopefully it opens soon, and they're just getting by. If they've got that news that it's closed till the end of winter, and that actually is the reality, there's going to be so many gyms here that close down. It's just going to be crazy. And if the same thing happens in America, I assume the same thing's going to happen. I just don't know how they survive unless there's some sort of crazy government funding, but who knows?
It's sad news, mate, because on the side, I just do not understand back home saying that it could be 4 or 5 months away before they open. It just doesn't make sense, especially how low the cases are back in Australia. It's ridiculous. Let's hope that's not the case, and let's hope that they do kind of ease restrictions in a little way. I can see easily 24/7, that's going to be finished for quite some time. But just, even if they go to allowing a certain amount of people in the gym at once, cleaning the machines before and after, I think it can be done right, as long as, it's done slowly.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. Like, even if some of these gyms were required to set up like an online portal, or the government started an online portal where you book in times to go to the gym and you can go for an hour and a half or an hour, and you have to be out by that time, sort of thing. Like, that would, I can't see why that wouldn't work. And, just say that you're only allowed 50 people in a gym at a time or whatever, and then, allow 40 people in at a time just in case people go over time or whatever. And then you could do that, you know what I mean? And especially the 24-hour gyms like my gym, you could do it over a 24-hour period. So, if you get stuck and you don't book in time, then you've only got midnight available or something like that, you know what I mean? So, or even just do the 24-hour gyms in just say a 14-hour staffed period, so not too many people are going in at the wrong times and stuff. Like there's ways around it. Surely that you think before, opening up at the end of winter in 4.5 months, when my state WA, which has millions of people in it, hasn't had a new case in the past 2 days apparently. So who knows, man? But I really hope things get back to normal quicker. And the way things are in Australia, I mean, imagine how long it will take for America to get to the stage that we're at now. And you guys look like you're almost opening up things at the same time or before us, because we've got schools that are still going to be open. So we're on school holidays now. And I actually think that's what's helped as well with the cases going down a bit, the fact that there's no schools open. Who knows if it does or not. But the schools will go back soonish. But our schools are going back. Your schools are closed. But stage one of your, opening things back up is opening up gyms, but schools will still be closed. So it's funny that you guys are more strict on the schools and we're more strict on the gyms. So.
Yeah, it is. It's different like that. There will only be starting with a few states, though. There'll only be probably 4 to 5 states I'll start with, and that will be done in a gradual process over multiple months, I guess. Yeah. So let's hope it works. Let's hope there's no more big cases or big breakouts or anything like that, because the sooner we get back to normality, the better.
Yeah, and I don't want to touch on it too much because I think it just depresses people. But Dan Soloman went on Jay Cutler's channel recently as well. It actually just went up yesterday, I believe, and he spoke about the Olympia. Now, you've watched the whole thing. I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but it's got to be tough for Dan and everything that's going on. But tell us what happened in that interview.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it would be tough for him. You look at last year; he put together Olympia with some big names missing. I was at the Olympia, and it was a really well done job. It was fantastic. Now he's preparing for 2020, and then the pandemic happens. So, very difficult for him. But he seemed very positive. So did Jay and Dave. They were all, and which I love about their channel too. It's all about positivity. I think it's all, they're focused on the show, on the date. They can't control anything else around them at the moment, so they just have to focus on that one goal. But yeah, let's hope it all comes together. But in saying that, whoever's going to be looking at putting a boost at the Olympia, it's around this time in the next month or so that you've really got to start, maybe paying up and putting your money forward to get your spot. So I don't know how that's going to go. Yeah,
and the thing is as well, we've got to have the booths made as well. So you've got to have a company generally make the booths and then ship them and all that sort of stuff. So it's a big operation, and it doesn't just take, you can't just put stuff together in 2 weeks and be like, yep, sweet, I suppose maybe you can, but it's not going to be, a company's not going to pay $100,000 or $50,000 or $25,000 to actually be there and then get a booth made up that's probably worth double that or the same amount. It's just, and not knowing if it's going ahead. So that's a really tough situation. Just say it goes ahead and the only way they can do it is no expo, no spectators. It would be extremely strange for starters, maybe just media and stuff there. Now, obviously, the Olympia is going to lose money in that case because you have no spectators, you have no expo. That's how they make most of their money. Now, they can sell advertising through an online webcast, obviously. That would, I suppose, garner a little bit more money than normal because there's going to be more people watching it. And obviously, if people aren't allowed to go to things like this, then they're going to be watching online. So you're going to get more viewers. You might be able to charge a little bit more, but it's not going to cover the prize money. Like, it's just not. I can't see them covering over $1 million just the men's bodybuilding alone. And then you got all the other divisions. So I don't know how this is actually going to work. If, Jake Wood just goes, who cares? I've got enough money. I'm just going to eat it. I'm just going to eat the losses from Miss Olympia. Or if they'll do less prize money, but that might drive the competitors away. So I've thought about this over and over in my head, and I'm like, this is just such a tough situation.
Yeah, and that would be the hard thing for the promoter as well. There'd be so many different scenarios, and they've probably got 4 or 5 different outcomes of what could happen. But
absolutely,
you just don't know. It's so out of everyone's control that you actually really can't put any plans into place until you're given a pretty definite, okay, restrictions are off. You can do this and this.
Yeah.
Tough situation for Dan. Let's hope if it moves on to next year, like this year goes ahead, but then next year he's got a full year run into the 21 Olympia with no issues whatsoever.
Oh, man. Imagine if something else came up, the dude just needs a break. But honestly, if Jake Wood just fesses up the money and just they come out and just say, look, we made a massive loss or whatever, I think he would be seen as such a hero. Like, he would come in here, first year earning the Olympia, gets this rough news, just still chucks up the money anyway. And even if he did 75% of the money or whatever, but I think if you're going to pay them and pay them decently, you may as well pay them a full amount and then just eat that loss, because everyone is going to see you as the biggest hero and everyone's going to want to support the Olympia going forward. So hopefully that happens. Like, imagine if he did that and then The Rock didn't do his show or something, you know what I mean? Everyone would be like, wow, look at the Olympia, you know, what an effort. So I would love to see that. But let's move on to our next topic, and this is the main topic of the show, and we're going to be ranking the greatest uncrowned Mr. Olympia of the 90s. Now, there's several ways you can actually even look at this as well. So you got, okay, who's the closest to winning? Who maybe should have won but didn't win? You got Nassar, obviously, I think that was in 97, wasn't it? Yep, 97, where he got second to Dorian Yates, and that was when Dorian's body was pretty much torn apart. He had, you know, torn biceps and just about everything else as well. And then you've got guys that have finished second several times that maybe shouldn't have even won one. So you got guys like Kevin Levrone, you got Shawn Ray, you got Flex Wheeler, you got Rich Gaspari, who finished second 3 times, I believe, in his career, to Lee Haney. You got Lee Labrada, who got second twice as well in 89 and 90. So you got a lot of really good guys. And then you got other guys that were just always there, like Chris Cormier. So let's go through, like, how are you judging it? How do you see the greatest uncrowned Mr. Olympia of the 90s?
There's 2 ways of looking at it. And mind you, we should probably tell the listeners that I woke up to, because of our time difference, I woke up to a text from you this morning saying this topic we're gonna do, and you're going, I'll research what years they placed second in. And I literally woke up, text you straight away each person and the years that they came second, which I don't know if that's a good thing to know or not.
Yeah, or if you just like are just absolutely insane or have some sort of issue. But this is the text you sent to me. I said, I can't remember what I said, but I said I'll research how many seconds, places they got, etc., to back up my arguments. You sent back a text saying Rich 3 times, Flex 3 times, Shawn 2 times, Kevin 4 times, Nassar 1 time, Chris 0. So I'm like, that is amazing. But you said, I know it off the top of my head. And I was just like, and I just wrote back, you're a wizard. Because that is ridiculous, man. That is absolutely ridiculous. And then I forgot to mention Lee Labrada as well, who finished second twice in 89 and 90. You know, the 80s isn't part of the 90s, but he still was in that 90s era, so I think we can add him in there. So how do you rank him? Like, do you want me to rank? Because I've literally written mine down from 1st to 7th.
Oh, jeez, all right. Well, let's start with you.
Okay, so in 7th, I've got Chris Cormier, because no second places, obviously. He was inconsistent at the Olympia as well. So at the Arnold Classic, he finished second numerous times. Like, I think it was the record for how many times he's got second. Like, was it 5 or 6 or?
6 times, yeah.
6 times, so that's ridiculous. You got Lee Labrada, obviously. I've got him in 6th, just because, you know, part of it was part of the 80s, obviously 89, but 90, he looked sensational as well. I think, was 89 his better version?
Man, they were so close those years, eh? Like, it's hard too, because the lighting on the videos that we see, 89 was in Italy and 1990 was Chicago. Yeah. And they're 2 totally different backdrops. But he was very, very close both years. His condition, he saw, everything was so close, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I've got Lee Labrada in 6th. In 5th, I have Rich Gaspari. Now, I was not sure where to put Rich, because he finished second 3 times to Lee Haney. He was a sensational bodybuilder, and he was really knocking on the door. But as he went through into the 90s, he started to drop off a little bit. But Rich was, I suppose, really underrated, I would say. Like, when you compare the rest of these guys, I think Lee Labrada gets even more talk than Rich Gaspari sometimes as a contender for the Olympia. And I don't know why that is, but Rich was, he was ridiculous. And he was a guy that really brought the conditioning. So I've got him in the top 5 there. So in 4th, I have Nassar El Sonbaty as well. Now, Nassar was, as we said before this started as well, Nassar was probably the closest, and maybe he was the one that should have won the Olympia in 1997. My opinion is that he probably should have, because obviously Dorian was pretty torn up and everything like that. But we weren't there. You know, everyone says Dorian was a different beast in person. But what do you think about putting Nassar in 4th?
It's hard if we go on statistically. Then obviously the clear winner, we'll get to that. But as far as physique-wise goes, like, and I'm not a fan of Nassar's physique, to be honest, at all. I wasn't a fan. But he pushed Dorian to the limit in 97. Yeah. The only thing that brought Nassar unstuck was his back. That was it. But he everything else, his quads, his hammies, his chest, his arms, he really, I don't know. I pretty much had Nassar quite close to number 1 in my picks, to be honest. And that was purely on how close the decision was at the time.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can look at it. I'm actually going to do a separate video on who's the greatest uncrowned Mr. Olympia and put all this stuff in and actually rank it through all the years. You know, so even go back into the 80s and 70s and stuff like that, and even modern era as well.
We're kind of in the 80s with Rich Gaspari anyway, but he needs to be added.
But he competed in the 90s as well, so I'm like, that's why I sort of pushed him into the 90s, even though he was 80s.
96 was his last show, so.
Yeah, and I was tempted to even put him higher because 3 second place finishes is so impressive, but yeah, had to have him down there. So got Nassar in 4th. And now, like, I always, coming up into the sport, like, finding out about all these guys and having my dad tell stories about them, because my dad used to compete and was into bodybuilding. And he always used to talk about 3 main guys that used to challenge. He used to talk about your Rich Gasparis and Lee Labradas and all that as well. But he almost talked about them in different conversations to the top 3 in my list, which is Shawn Ray, Flex Wheeler, and Kevin Levrone. Because Dad always used to mention those guys as being the aesthetic guys through the 90s. So I have Shawn Ray in 3rd. Obviously, he concentrated on the Olympia. So he skipped a lot of shows that he probably could have won just to do the Olympia and trying to win that Olympia. Now, would you have Shawn Ray 3rd out of those big 3?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm a big fan of Shawn's physique. I always have been. He was probably one of the first guys when I started that I looked at and I went, wow, that's flawless. When he got 2nd in 94, he came out to Australia a week later to guest pose. And it was just, his condition was pretty close to what he was on stage. It wasn't far off at all. So he looked amazing. There's a lot of arguments he could have beaten during that show in 94, just depending on what physique you wanted. But if he'd won then, you got to think, would that have changed the whole way the sport was looked at from then on? It's really interesting to see which way the sport could have went. But yeah, he looked great in 94 and 96. He really nailed it.
I think if Shawn won in 94, I almost think that, because obviously winning an Olympia, you get a lot more responsibility, you get more guest posings, you get more of all that sort of stuff. Everyone wants a piece of you when you're Mr. Olympia. And Shawn was one of these guys that I don't know if he would have been a good Mr. Olympia because he was obviously outspoken, which is fine. But he would say, people would come up to him in the gym, and I've heard him say, like, I've heard other people say that he was like, no, I'm training. Like, it was not necessarily super rude, but I've heard some people say he was rude. You know what I mean? So, and when you're Mr. Olympia, I think that's sort of, I understand it from a point of he's there to train, he has to train, that's his job. But the way it comes across, and the way he comes across, I suppose, to the bodybuilding fans, isn't always the best. So I don't know if that would have been a distraction for him, or if because there's no social media, it wouldn't have been as much of a distraction. Because if he fell off then, in 95, just say, because he won the Olympia in 94, would one of these other guys stepped up, or would Dorian just come back and been better? Who really knows?
In 95, Dorian did definitely come back.
Yeah.
Even though he had the torn bicep, he came back in amazing condition.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So in 2nd, I have Flex Wheeler, who, obviously was great through years. That 93 Mr. Olympia, like, I've watched that posing routine so many times. He looked absolutely sensational. He finished 2nd, I believe, 3 times. Is that correct?
He did. Yep.
Yeah. So I've got to have him in that top 2 because I think overall he was the better bodybuilder out of him and Shawn Ray. And they both finished 2nd the same amount of time. So that's why I've got Flex Wheeler 1 spot higher. What do you think about the battle between Flex and Kevin?
Well, Flex, he got 3 second places. Was that 93, 98, 99? I mean, statistically, Kevin's got 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go on that, that's pretty impressive. Whether or not he probably deserved to win any of them, it's one of those things again. It's a toss of it. I'll tell you a funny story though. I think it was the 03 Olympia, which is his last Olympia, and he came 6th, and he wasn't too crash hot there. So this is at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and we'd stayed. I was with my cousin, so after the comps finished, we went to one of the bars there for a couple of drinks. We were probably there for about an hour, and we've walked out. We're walking out sort of the Mandalay Bay, and there's all the pokie machines. And I don't know why, I just sort of looked down one row of them, and here's Kevin sitting by himself, sitting down there with this big ass cigar, his foot up on the bench, just doing this. That's all he was doing. And I thought, I can't waste this opportunity. So I went down there, and he was cool as, like he was talking to us fine. And I just remember, honestly, it was the coolest guy I'd ever seen in my life. Like, just the coolest guy you can imagine.
Yeah.
Just everything he did was cool. Everything, the way he spoke, the way he was sitting, it was just a legend.
Yeah.
I didn't back then too. Like, you had to carry around one of those cameras, you know, with the negatives and all that, and that was just a pain in the butt. So unfortunately, we didn't have a camera, but that was a pretty cool meeting with Kev. So I got to see him in quite a few Olympias he was in too. Four times runner up is damn impressive. So that said, I don't know if any of them he probably deserved to maybe topple who he was up against.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you believe that Flex Wheeler should have won any of the Olympias as well? Because this is in my head. I was like, I think that Dorian and obviously Ronnie Coleman as well deserved all those wins. Yep. So, and I feel the same about Kevin Levrone too. I don't feel like he actually deserved any of the Olympias. I think he got second when he should have got second. So that's why I was like, well, Kevin has one more. That's why I put him above. And that was the only reason. Because these guys are like, in terms of just physique, I would probably say Flex Wheeler just. But Kevin Levrone had that combination of, I think, a little bit more mass and then also still had the nice shape. So I just edged Kevin over Flex Wheeler there.
Yeah. And I think for me personally, and there's a lot of looks Kevin Levrone had that I thought were brilliant, but 92, 94 Arnold Classic win as well. He was so conditioned at those shows. But my all-time favourite was 2000 when he got second to Ronnie there, because he just had a very streamlined look to his physique. Nothing was a pure standout. Everything seemed to match. He was in fantastic condition. And that was the Olympia that he documented on VHS back in the time. And he hadn't trained for a long time. And I think he started 10 weeks out. But he did something totally different. So say if you're doing chest, he did chest in the morning, light, chest at night, heavy. Next day was arms. He'd do arms in the morning, arms at night. And he kept doing that the whole way through. And that was a dramatic transformation, I must admit, over those 10 weeks. And then his posing routine, I can't remember the name of the song, but it was to one of the Creed songs. So everything about that Olympia was just awesome. Yeah,
for sure. Now, a guy that's doing something like that, where he's training morning and night, the same body part, now you've got to obviously be able to recover. Now, obviously, the chemicals and all that sort of stuff help a lot in terms of test and whatever else. Now, as a guy like that, do you think that he's using something like Slen or something to actually force nutrients into the muscle so he can actually recover and come back and train later? Like, I just can't imagine someone just being on a bit of gear and doing that.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, you've got to remember, I honestly think out of every bodybuilder that's been, Kevin's the most genetically gifted out of everyone. And I don't just say that just as in like muscle, how it is. It's his recovery. No one can put muscle on as quickly as him. We've seen him from next to nothing and just transform into a show.
Yeah.
He was as strong as, especially back in the day, like he was exceptionally strong. But that DVD or VHS at the time that he documented for 2000, he was living literally, and they filmed all his food, was just fish, rice and beans. That was it. Nearly every meal was fish, rice and beans. And he had his own gym at the time. He had a world gym in Maryland, which was a great gym at the time too. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know how huge insulin was back then. I mean, it could have been. I've got really no idea. But I think it takes a genetic freak to be able to do a morning and night session, especially with the same body part.
Yeah,
I've tried training twice a day, and I burn out so fast. I was done. So I found for me 1 session a day, 2-3 days max, and then I had to have a day off.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes down to genetics, mate.
And also, I interviewed Luke Sando just recently as well, and we discussed a lot about that in terms of not just training, but just in terms of just pushing in general, in terms of the diet, cardio, training, whatever. And he said it's such a fine balance for him, because he can't just, if he just pushes and pushes and pushes, his physique goes backwards, because that's what he's done in previous years. And we say, oh, he's off, he didn't go hard enough or whatever, and it was more the opposite. He needed to pull back, and that's why he's got Chris Aceto to say, okay, yeah, eat this, or nah, don't train, or whatever, you know. So he sort of now is told when to pull back, and that's better for his body, and he's able to get in actual better shape. So him training twice a day, you know, for an extended period of time just wouldn't work. And I know for myself, I'm much the same way as that. If I push too hard, my body just crashes, and I get, you know, I've had glandular fever, I've had other issues, I had fatigue issues and stuff like that. And I just know I get better results from pulling back a bit. So if I was to train twice a day, you know, 5 times a week is more than enough for me for an hour. You know what I mean? Even when I'm prepping, I think that's the limit pretty much for me. And I've sort of learnt that now, that I just can't just keep pushing more and more, because then I start to go back and back. My physique looks tired. I don't feel healthy, and Yeah, it's just one of those things. You know, some people, like I've heard, there's actual documentary about Michael Jordan. I don't know if you've caught that recently, called The Last Stand. And people have said about him, about Kobe Bryant, about a few other these top NBA stars, that these guys could seem to just push and push and push, and they'd never seem to burn out. Like they must just have their adrenal glands must be like the best of the best. Like I don't know how it works.
Some of those guys you look at, like you said, they're a different breed. They can just seem to push harder and harder and harder, and they can just keep going. It's nuts. I mean, you would have I've come across lots of guys I've trained with in the gym over the years, and some of them, there's just something about them. They can just go harder, go heavier. Their joints are better. Like they can handle that load on their body as well. Yeah. It's a purely, and that's amazing to see. I love seeing stuff like that in any sport, just pure genetic freaks.
Absolutely. And you get AFL players, which is Australian rules football for those who are watching. They complain about not having enough buys in the season where they have, a week off in between other weeks and they want to have 2 or 3 of them. And I'm like, come on, NBA players play, if you make the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs, you're playing over 100 games a season. So when you think about it, that even if you just say you space out over the whole year, that's a game every 3.5 days over the whole year. So obviously you're taking out 3 to 4 months of off season. So then you're packing into that and you go, okay, we're playing a game about every 2 to 2.5 days for the whole year. And then baseball, obviously it's a less intense sport, but they play 160 something games in a regular season, probably almost 200 if they go deep into the playoffs. It's like, how can how can a body can actually hold up like that? Like especially in NBA where you're running up and down the court, it's a hard court, you're jumping, going down. Like just think about landing on your ankles. You tweak your ankle slightly. You don't have much time to rest it and recover unless they give you a few games off. So it's just one of those sports where I have mad respect for NBA players, for ice hockey players is the same. They play about 80 games a season as well. It's just absolutely crazy. So I don't know how these guys recover, but I think a lot of these guys are actually genetic freaks. And I think if a bunch of these guys that played some of these sports moved into bodybuilding and that was their only option and that's all they could do, they'd probably be absolute freaks, I bet.
Actually, speaking of genetic freaks, I know we're going pretty much over time at the moment.
Yeah,
when you've got a chance, and put a picture up on this when we're talking about it, jump on Mike O'Hearn's Instagram page and have a look at his boy Titan, who's 1 year old now. Have a look at the genetics on a 1-year-old kid.
Oh, really?
It's insane. I'm blown away.
That's cool.
You got to see it. Is
he jacked?
He's jacked. He's got delts. He's got biceps. He actually did a partial chin up about 2 months ago. So he would have been 10 months old. There you go. But no. And have a look at his Instagram. I think it's the latest photo he's got with him.
It's amazing, man. Like, because my little dude, he's about 9.5 months now. And we've had to put clips all over the cupboards and all that sort of stuff now because he would just rip the cupboards open, start pulling stuff out and being like, cool, got this. Yeah. And he'll be stoked about it. But obviously we don't want that. And he's had quite a few falls and stuff because I think he's quite, maybe compared to some babies, he's quite aggressive, I'd say. Because he'll come up to you and we've almost got a joke going now. Like I'll say, kiss, and do a little kiss thing. And he'll either turn his head away or he'll just whack me and just laugh. And he finds it hilarious. But it's amazing how strong they are, man. Like he'll, because we've got the clips on there, he'll put his hand against the other one and start pulling, and you feel how hard he's pulling. I'm like, that is hard. Like he's pretty strong, but I think he's got the Maori genetics, man, like of my partner, so which is good. And we even said like if he wants to be a bodybuilder, hopefully he has like my joints, her strength and muscle, So
you'd be killing it, yeah.
Fingers crossed, man. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show, but I want to discuss a few little things before we wrap it up. Now, we've got a Facebook group out there as well, and I'm encouraging people to jump over there because I post up all the videos and stuff. Obviously, subscribe and all that sort of stuff and hit the notification bell button, but if you're in the group as well, you can comment on there, discuss things, and I might even post some other stuff on there. But one thing that I've loved that people are doing is actually tagging me in and putting stuff up on your Instagram stories or sharing the stuff on Facebook and tagging me. So you can tag me at Xavier A. Wills, which I'll put up on the screen now, or you can probably both, tag in Desktop Bodybuilding. So it's just at Desktop Bodybuilding on Instagram. And I've been sharing out everyone's stuff that people tag me in because I think that's just awesome, man. Like, and the amount of messages I've got since I've started doing a lot of these interviews the past 2 to 3 weeks, I reckon I've got about 100 DMs, maybe 50 to 100 of people saying, or probably 50 realistically, probably about 50 people saying, love the show, love the interviews, keep them going, all that sort of stuff. And man, like, I just write back to everyone like, thank you so much. Because people might think that, oh, he gets a bunch of messages or it doesn't mean much. But honestly, it means so much to me, man. Like, to have these people reaching out and just saying such nice things about the channel, it's incredibly humbling. So I just want to thank everyone for that.
Great, man. I must admit, yeah, you're nailing some awesome interviews. Great guests on, really cool guys. So.
Yeah, I'm lucky with the guests I've got, man, to be honest. Like having Jay Cutler, Luke Sando, those interviews have gone nuts lately. People absolutely love Luke, and he's just such a funny guy. And especially check out the last video. You won't be disappointed. It's funny. It's funny. We have some good stories on there and stuff. So, yeah, it's been great, man. Honestly, it's been great. And I was intending to have shout-outs on this episode. That's the one thing I did forget. But don't worry, I'll do the next bodybuilding news video I do. I'm going to put a bunch of shout-outs on there, probably 20 to 30. I have probably about 200 people I need to shout out, though, so I'm going to start putting them in videos a bit more regularly. But, Mick, do you have any final last words?
No, I'm good. Let's just hope these restrictions slowly come off soon and we can all get back in the gym and do what we love and enjoy.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. And let us know as well in the comments, who do you think is the greatest uncrowned Mr. Olympia from the 90s? Do your ranking. So we've got Chris Cormier, Lee Labrada, Rich Kaspari, Nassar El Sonbaty, Shawn Ray, Flex Wheeler, and Kevin Levrone. So let us know if there's anyone else in there as well that you think is an uncrowned Mr. Olympia from the 90s. Let us know too. I don't think there's anyone else that we really missed out. But let us know in the comments below. And also, let us know if you have any listener questions too, because we want some listener questions and we haven't been getting any. So let us know in the comments. So that's it. For Xavier Wills, Michael Galley, for the Weekly Bodybuilding Breakdown, we are out.